The Monitoring for Environment and Security in Africa MESA project is a European Union-funded project which utilizes Earth observation and satellite technologies to generate critical products and information services for socio-economic development of African people, as well as sustainable environmental management. Professionals, policymakers, researchers, members of the diplomatic corps, continental financial institutions, civil society, government officials and international agency representatives converged in Nairobi, Kenya's capital city, to attend the first Monitoring for Environment and Security in Africa Forum between 31st August and 4th September 2015. The project supports not only the African general public, scientists and institutions, but also African decision makers and planners in designing and implementing policies and development plans for sustainable development, thereby enhancing socio-economic conditions of the African population.
The current program, the Monitoring for Environment and Security in Africa, is a key initiative and an important step in our long-term cooperation, in the cooperation between the European Union and Africa in the field of Earth observation and satellite-related technology, which are used for climate change and environmental monitoring. So our objective is to jointly address global challenges in this sector. And MESA builds on almost 15 years of the EU support to Earth observation and brings the EU financial contribution through the European Development Fund to almost 70 million euros since 2001.
The event was attended by His Excellency Ambassador Mahbub Malim, Executive Secretary of IGAD, Mrs. Anna Burillo, representative of the European Union delegation to the African Union, and Mrs. Gina Bon, Chair of the MESA Program Steering Committee and IOC, among others.
When we look at MESA, it's a program, it's a project that is funded by the European Union, and it is within the framework of the Earth observation-based services between Africa and Europe. And the project is addressing the needs for Africa to have reliable and timely data and information for all aspects of environment in Africa.
Important that with the MESA program, we managed to establish strong cooperation links within Africa, at the continental, at the regional and at the national level, but also we managed to establish strong cooperation links between the European and the African partners on both sides. And I think this is a big added value.
There were representatives of 48 participating African countries, the regional economic communities, representatives of African ministerial conferences, the African Union Commission, the African, Caribbean and Pacific Secretariat, the European Union, the African Development Bank, the United Nations organizations, European Union partners including UMITSAT, JRC, ITC, ESA, CINES, ECMWF, NGOs, development and research institutions, that is FuseNet, program and projects, and the African Risk Capacity.
We are delighted to host you at this great event, as it gives us an opportunity.
The forum gave the attendees an opportunity to review the progress of the implementation of the MESA project, assess performance, review the challenges at hand, and offer solutions on the way forward. It also provided an avenue to extend, consolidate and enhance the partnership in place as they aspire towards achieving a successful implementation of the MESA project.
The objective of this project is to support African decision makers in designing and implementing policies, strategies as well as development planning for sustainable development in Africa. This project has got several thematic actions based on the priorities of the regions which are implementing this one. In Africa, having 5 regions implementing it. One is IGAD in East Africa, the other one is Indian Ocean Commission in the Indian Ocean, the other one is in SADC in Southern Africa, and ECOWAS in the Western Africa. And also have a continental thematic action on climate services on disaster risk reduction, which runs across the continent.
The forum was expected to achieve the following results. The specific objectives of the forum were to discuss and analyze how MESA can feed and improve overall continental policy making as far as environmental governance and environmental monitoring are concerned, to present the status of the program with emphasis on showcasing product and service delivery in response to the needs of each region, to discuss the continental component of MESA training and how to achieve durable results in capacity development within the objectives of MESA, to discuss the needs of African policy, planning and decision-making communities for environmental services, for food security, climate and environmental issues, and the state of technology in Earth observation in terms of how MESA and later the Global Monitoring for Environment and Security (GMES) and Africa Program can access data, to discuss and agree a strategy and consequent action plan for the integration of MESA services and products in the decision-making cycle, and to discuss the GMES and Africa Program and how it will benefit from MESA.
Implementation of MESA, as we know that we have 5 implementation regs and 5 participating regs, and with their regs, and now with the AUC acting as a reg with its own reg, which is ACMAD, the program has been very, very useful to all African member states participating, both the regs and the member states, in terms of capacity building. As we know that Earth observation is very, very important. It helps in getting meteorological information and also climatic information, data and information, climate information, data and information. And this has been helping in different sectors. It's helping in the area of the drought services, in the flood, in the agriculture, in the coastal and marine, and also it's even helping in land degradation and also in the conservation of natural habitats.
The MESA project promotes regional integration, enhances Africa's access to Earth observation data, develops and disseminates products and services, encourages exchanges between the African and European experts and institutions, and also enhances the capacity of African institutions, policymakers and experts. The project is currently offering products and operational services to African users in areas such as agricultural production, monitoring and assessment of droughts, floods and wildfires, climate services for disaster risk reduction, land degradation mitigation, coastal and marine resources management, water resources management, natural habitat conservation, rangeland management, and forestry management.
There are 2 main benefits of the MESA program. There are technical benefits and institutional benefits. And at the technical level, the European Union provided substantial financial support, invested a lot in launching environmental and methodological satellites, providing key information on the state of environment in Africa. And the African countries using this information to address the challenges related to climate change and to natural disasters like floods, droughts, land degradation, loss of biodiversity. And at the institutional level, through MESA program, within the scope of MESA, we managed to establish strong cooperation links, both political and technical, at continental, regional and national level. So we closely work with the African Union Commission, we work with the regional economic communities and, in Africa, and also regional implementing centers across the continent, and also with individual member states. And MESA altogether is covering 48 countries in Africa.
Eastern region, we have 3 services: land degradation, conservation, natural habitat conservation, and the forest monitoring. The product from these 3 services are used to make key decisions. For example, in natural habitat conservation, we are looking at protected areas, areas which are addressed for encroachment by people. So with our information, the park managers, those who are in charge of protected areas, can be able to take measures to ensure that the people don't encroach on protected areas. They can also be able to predict the wildlife movement routes, and this can be used to warn people so that there is to avoid human-wildlife conflicts.
One of the most important parts of the MESA program is capacity building. Therefore, we are involved in making sure that the MESA products are incorporated in our curriculum, and this is one of the biggest contributions that MESA is doing in terms of making sure that our curriculum is having Earth observation within it, and that we take part within that context.
The Mauritius Oceanography Institute is the regional implementation center for the MESA project in the Indian Ocean countries. And we have 2 services, which one first service is the identification of potential fishing zones for the IOC countries, that is Mauritius, Seychelles, Comoros, Madagascar, and the Mozambique Channel countries like Tanzania, Kenya, and Mozambique. That's one service. The second service which is a new service in MESA, which we didn't have in the previous service, which is AMEST. And this service has got to do with the identification of sites where they are prone to erosion. And we're coming up with charts called the CVI charts, Coastal Vulnerability Index charts. That's one. And the other one is the placing of buoys in the IOC countries. These buoys will measure the different waves, and this information will be fed to the meteorological services of those countries, and these will be used to inform the people, the fishermen, etc., about the state of the sea.
Under the MESA project, the University of Ghana is implementing the ECOWAS Marine Thema, which is made up of 14 Western African countries. And under the Marine Thema, we're looking at coastal and marine resources management, which is carrying out 2 services. The first service is the support to fishery resources management, and the second service is to forecast ocean weather conditions to artisanal fishermen. Now, under the first service, we are looking at the creating of potential fishing zone areas, which can be relayed on to policymakers to help with the conservation of certain areas which are of importance to fisheries and management.
Important for us to understand where the media is coming from, so that when we seek to communicate as people who have this great information about our world, then we know what we are dealing with. It's like knowing your client. Then you tailor-make whatever it is you have to all that the client is about.
And also, when journalists report on issues, they are able to make them simpler. They are able to bring in, the value of the issues to the people. What does it mean? What does the Earth observation data mean for the residents of a certain village, who are affected with drought or who are experiencing floods? then they are able to get into the importance of, of such data. So when we see the significance of the data and the people it affects, then it becomes an easier subject to deal with. The person watching at home or the person reading the newspaper article at home is able to relate with such issues.
At the end of the MESA forum, several critical recommendations were made. If Earth observation technology is to be fully optimized in Africa, it is crucial to examine the gaps that exist between technology development and its application at national level. Regional Economic Communities, or RECs, should remain in their role as facilitators and oversee the implementation of the MESA thematic actions. It is important that MESA supports all stakeholders so that they can benefit from the MESA services equally. The MESA training component should consider including the Pan-African universities in the capacity building program.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And I think for the past 3 days, it has been wonderful. We started off hearing all the political declarations, and with a lot of things were said. But as we went through the 2 other days, we started to see how the program is blooming. We started to understand that there are things behind the curtains. There are a lot of things that are being done. And I think we should be happy for those who have been in the driving seats, to be very happy, to congratulate yourselves, and you deserve to be proud of what you've achieved so far.
I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the Commission to thank the partner, our main partners, the European Commission. I would like also to thank, on behalf of the Commission, the host country, Kenya, who is also a good stakeholder, who has provided us with hospitality and also with this nice facility.
It was anticipated that knowledge gained at a higher level of coordination would be reached on how these services are generated and disseminated at regional and country level.
I've seen people using these services in various sectors of their socio-economic development. They use these services in agricultural production, whereby the products and services are used in crop estimates, and also in livestock management. And also in the water sector, we use the MESA project products and services in designing and also warning people about the water level, so that if they are navigating those rivers, they should know how the levels are and they should predict when to go and sail or not. Also, the MESA services are used to predict hazards such as droughts and floods, thereby warning people well in advance that in 2 months or in 3 months we should be having floods or we should be having droughts. This makes policy decision makers to come up with interventions which are preventative, so that we have their lives, the lives of the people, the lives of the livestock and property well secure.
16 countries in my region are participating in the land thema, while 14 are participating in the marine sector. And of course, this has improved the livelihood of both the agriculturists. So MESA is quite an important one for my region, and we appreciate their